Ah, isn't it beautiful? Hey, didn't you already do this? And not even that long ago? Hey, whoa, 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 this is different. It is better. I am better, anywho. This video is similar to my last Vivarium build, but I think this one has a lot of improvements. For I have learned new tricks, I think. And since you're still here, let us begin. Alright, first things first, I found a good ventilated area and added some, what is it called? Some protective floor paper. You know, to protect the actual floor from what I'm gonna do to it. When I was done with that, I added the terrarium laying on its back, cause easier to work with. I went with an Exoterra 24 by 18 by 36, the extra tall ones. You know, the same one I used last time. But unlike last time, this specific terrarium is one of the old versions, which has, you know, the longer doors. I don't think they make these ones anymore. I just happened to be able to get this used one. Anyways, I just needed a tall Exoterra for the lizard that I'm planning to get for it. I wonder what it could possibly be. After, I supported the glass doors with this stool and this chair, because the door will break if it's opened all the way. Wait, why don't you just remove the doors? Oh, aren't you a smart one? You technically can remove the Exoterra terrarium doors, but it's not easy. And with these old doors, no. I tried. I really did try, but they're not coming off. If you can remove them, I would recommend removing them, because you don't have the risk of breaking them, and it's much easier to work with the terrarium if you remove them. But if you can't, like me, then just support them. And make sure the supports are not easily movable. Next up, I need to mark where I want the background to end. This section is about 5 inches, so that is where I'm going to mark. Everything below this 5 inches is going to be substrate, so there's no point to make the background go below this 5-inch mark. Well, it's time to make the background, so here's all the fun little branches and cork bark that I'm gonna use. But I'm not gonna use these ones. These ones are for something else. I got a lot of pieces here. Perhaps a little too much. I will be using these things, these bamboo skewers, to help support the branches before the foam is added. Now, I had a bit of trouble figuring out how to do this. I want the background, the back section, to be mostly cork bark with some branches sticking out. So I had a bit of trouble figuring out how I'm gonna arrange this. And I decided to add the background cork first. But why not use one of those single cork bark background pieces that are for sale? I swear I'm going to... I decided to use many smaller pieces instead of those, single cork bark pieces, so that the background would have actual depth. So it wasn't completely flat. And the cork tubes are there to add hiding places for the lizards. After the cork background was laid, I added the branches, which I hot glued together to keep them from falling over and to keep them in place. A hot glue gun turned out to be very useful for this build. When I was happy with what I set up, I used some great stuff expanding foam, love that stuff, to keep them in place. I removed the cork bark, added the foam, and then placed the cork bark back in its original position, while leaving all of the branches in place because they are already glued to each other and I am not moving them. But why not just silicone the cork bark to the background? Why use expanding foam? I could use silicone on the cork bark to keep it stuck to the background, but you see, as I mentioned before, the cork bark pieces I'm using aren't completely flat. So if I were to silicone them, there will be gaps in the background where the lizard may get into, and we don't want that. Plus, I doubt the silicone can support the branches with the way I have them positioned. Anyways, let's continue. It exploded on me. The top came way off. Like, it exploded. Now I have to get another one. God damn. Like, it exploded on me again. What the f*** is happening? I was so close to being done. It. Oh, would you look at that? The right door is missing. I wonder what happened. Well, looks like the foam has fully cured. Isn't that lovely? Anyways, time to move on to the next step. Carving. So we want to make the foam look more rock or wood-like, so we need to carve it. I usually use tools like a snap-off knife, but because there is so little space where the foam is, I actually found it to be much easier to simply use my dirty, stained hands for the job. Though my hands would get tired and hurt, so I would regularly take breaks. I also use the bamboo skewers to poke into the tight spaces my thick hands can't get into. I did find it to be very difficult to reach some places, especially on the sides, as the foam was much lower than the cork bark, and some places just did not have enough foam, so I decided to add more foam in needed locations. And when that foam was fully cured, I went back into carving. All done. Doesn't it just look so much better? I removed any foam that was on the side glass using this scraper. Of course, don't forget to remove all those loose pieces. I used a vacuum. Now then, for the foam, there's basically two things you can do now. You can either paint it with Drylok, like I did in my last video, or you can do the good old method where you add like silicone and put cocoa bark or some kind of substrate over it. Me, I'm gonna use Drylok because I have some left over from my last build, so that's what I'm gonna do. Plus, I like the Drylok look. It's pretty nice. For Drylok, you want to have about 4 layers of this stuff. The more the better. if you know what I mean. To get the color you want, just mix the Drylok with some cement coloring. Remember to use a little bit of cement coloring because a little bit of cement coloring can change the whole pile of Drylok by a lot. So use a little bit of cement coloring. I am going for a darker color so that it would look, different from my last project. Oh, and just to mention again, we will be adding like multiple layers of this stuff, probably around 4 layers. The reason is because we can always adjust the color if the color is wrong the first time. And because we don't want to have cracks in the Drylok, because I do have experience with such things. So we will be adding a lot more layers to make the Drylok a lot sturdier and not prone to cracking up on me. So let's begin. Alright, so the first layer is done. Lovely. Now I get to do this all over again. And again, and again, and again once more. Once the Drylok has fully dried, we can start putting on the next layer. Layer 2 done. Alright, 2 layers done and 2 more to go. I kind of ran out of Drylok, so I need to make some more. Still going for a darker color though. And I did not show this, but I did do layer 4. The steps are the same as before, so you didn't miss much. But now it's time to add the details. As you can see, the Drylok is looking very flat, like in a color sense. And we don't want that. So we're gonna do some dry brushing, where I'll make a different colored Drylok, something more brown, why not? And before adding it to the background, I will dry it off on the paper first, and then with the dry brush paint on the background. This will make it so that mostly only the levitated sections of the background will receive the new paint layer, creating a multicolored background with some depth. I don't think the camera captures it very well, but it does look really nice in person. I promise. I also decided to add another dry layer, but this time using a lighter brown color to create, more depth and to make it look nicer. Alright, we are finally done with the background. Yay! I am really happy with how it turned out. Even better than my last attempt, I think. Perhaps. Maybe. Probably. And just like with the foam, I need to scrape off the Drylok from the side glass. Using the same tool as before, the scraper. Of course, then I must remove all the loose pieces. Remember to get them all because it would be truly unfortunate if you missed a few pieces only to find them out later. Anyways, the background is now fully complete. It is all done. No more. Now I need to somehow move this thing to its permanent location. I would suggest to get help moving this thing. If you're all alone, then good luck. This is the old build. I will probably do an update on it soon, maybe. So this is the Vivarium. I must say, I think it's a big improvement over my last build. I mean, if it wasn't, then I would be concerned. Just look at the details. I think it looks really nice. Anyway, now it's time for the equipment, substrate, and finally, the plants. Wow, would you look at that? The door is back, like nothing ever happened. I totally did need to fix a broken notch from a support tumble, of course not. Well, let's continue. First, I must remove any loose pieces or debris. Then I spray down the vivarium with clean water, like RO water, to get anything bad off the background. For the bottom layer of the substrate, I will have about 2 inches of bioballs, separated with a drainage mesh. Look at that, a fancy Exoterra logo. For the substrate, I will pretty much only be mixing sphagnum moss with leaf litter. This is because the lizard I'm planning to get needs a pretty big layer of sphagnum moss, and there just isn't enough room to have a soil layer with these old exo-terrarium designs with the giant doors. So because of that, I won't have any soil needing plants, which works out pretty well because this is an air plant focused vivarium, so there is really no problems here. Then I added the top screen. Make sure to lock it in, because it would be a real shame if your creature were to escape now, wouldn't it? For the lights, I'll be using this Arcadia Jungle LED light, and since I already have one right next to it, I will just be connecting them together. Yes, you can do that. There you go. The lights will be on for 12 hours per day. For the misting system, yes, misting system, I will not be misting them manually because I will forget. So I first mark the spot, then use scissors to create holes big enough to attach the misting nozzles. And I also will be connecting these misting nozzles to the other vivarium because, you know, it's better to keep things simple and cheaper. I mean, like, why wouldn't I connect them? Wow, it works! I mean, I don't know what I would have done if it didn't. I will also be adding this T5 6% UVB kit, but I'm adding this specifically for the lizard, and I will be connecting it to the one right next to it. The vivarium looks quite wonderful with all the lights on. And the final equipment are the small USB fans. Just like the other vivarium, they are there to add airflow into the vivarium. They turn on for about 15 minutes, 4 times per day, but not at night though. Finally, it is time for the plants. As you can see, my first wave of plants are all air plants. I mean, what a shocker. And don't ask me what plants they are because I do not remember. I know that this is an Anthurium Best something, but the rest are some kind of, Tillandsia, probably. I don't know specifically what species, but they're in that group, I'm pretty sure. For the Anthurium, I just kind of stick it into the sphagnum moss. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But for the air plants, I'm actually going to use the good old hot glue gun trick. First, I find a spot I like. Then I add hot glue. Wait a few seconds and then add the plant to it. I wait a few seconds so that the glue wouldn't completely burn the plants. But this method actually works very well. I just kind of rinse and repeat with the other air plants. Alas, I finally got some more sphagnum moss. The more the better. And good to see the misting system working properly too with the timer I've set up, so that's all wonderful to see. For the second wave, I got some more air plants as well as some bromeliads. Bromeliads are very important to the lizard I am getting. So important that you could even say that it's part of their common name. Hint, 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 nudge, nudge. I also got this giant air plant. Just look at it. It's huge. I moved the Anthurium to make room for this giant air plant. And all of the second wave air plants are just added using the same hot glue gun technique. For the Bromeliad though, I tried to do the same hot glue gun technique, adding the hot glue to the dead stem of the plant. It worked very well for one of the Bromeliads, but the other one not so much, due to like the specific positioning and spot I chose for it. So in addition to the hot glue, I used some string to keep it in place. All done. Finito. Look at it. It's beautiful, right? I mean, I suppose I could have added more air plants. Oh well, I can always add them later on. It looks really nice to the old Vivarium. Definitely gives off a different kind of vibe, I guess. But wait, in the last Vivarium you added this cool moss to the branches. Yes, I am not going to do that because the humidity needed for the moss is too high for the lizards that I am planning to get. So no, I won't be adding moss to the branches. Alright, looks like we're completely done now. I guess all that is left is to add the